Welcome to the Traitors podcast. This is our final episode covering the Traitors US Season 4. We have recapped and analysed every episode of the season, including the reunion episode, and now we are devoting a whole episode just to our wonderful listener questions, opinions, and observations on the season. I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Matthew. I'm a writer. I work in unscripted TV development and podcasting. And joining me again to wrap up this season is my loyal co-host, David Bloomberg, and we are joined by a very special Traitors expert who most of you know very well. It's MaJiKer! Welcome both back to the pod. Have you both forgiven me for my devious game mastery a couple of nights ago?
I don't know, man. The whole murder in plain sight thing and not allowing me to give a jam type speech, which would have erroneously implicated MaJiKer.
Rude.
I was going to say, MaJiKer kissed me. MaJiKer kissed me.
Listeners, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, I launched an online version of the Traitors. Lots of people joined. MaJiKer was there, David was there, some other familiar people from the pod, lots of great listeners. Got another one coming up in a couple of weeks. And neither MaJiKer nor David were traitors. MaJiKer, you did very well in the game, though.
Yeah,
you made it far.
I feel like we're going to need a full debrief. And I know we're thinking about maybe doing a few special episodes of the podcast. Maybe we could talk about the difference of experience when we did the live experience. And this, I was faithful in both, but I had very different games. So this was honest, it was genuinely fascinating. Like I feel like I don't want to give spoilers. I feel like you should just tune in these special episodes we're going to do, and we'll just talk about what it is to have different experiences as a faithful. It was
Yeah.
so interesting.
Well, this time the person who was playing with you, who made an alliance with you, actually supported you for, most of the game. Until I started having doubts. But as opposed to the other time where someone else was not so nice to you.
Yeah.
Don't know.
I mean,
Don't know what you're talking about.
what was so fascinating is that I literally made two alliances in the first couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And what was so really like quite moving was to see how you guys were gently trying to defend me because I had so much sus on me at the start. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like really touched. I've got these two people who are like just trying to like help me. And it worked. It worked. Like, so wow, okay. Turns out particularly British listeners, alliances are a thing in these games. So when they go on about it in the States in Big Brother and Survivor, it turns out that alliances are actually quite important.
Yeah, I had a bunch also, not through myself, but all of a sudden people were like, hey, we're forming a US alliance. And then someone else was, hey, we're forming a North American alliance. And I'm like, should I tell them and just merge these? Or should I don't know what's going on here exactly, and then
This is hilarious because as the host of the game, I had no idea any of this was going on in the chat. So I didn't even know if people were using the chats.
Yeah.
So at the end, to discover that you had all these secret conversations was pretty impressive. Well done.
Yeah. And it was, the North American alliance ended up only being three of us. And it didn't include the US alliance, which never really got off the ground, actually. So, and possibly because, someone in it was a traitor. I don't know. They should have. But yes, that was also when, we were defending. That's why I was defending a couple of people in the North American alliance as well. So
it all makes sense. It's all clear.
yes.
And even if you had been able to see my chats in what we call the Alliance Française, which is quite funny because Alliance Française just means French Alliance, but actually, and l'Alliance Française is an actual thing. It's like an institute for French all over. They have offices all over the world. With a girl who was secretly kind of in France. I think she mentioned it in passing. We were chatting in French. It was like, alors, on vote pour qui? Oh, je sais pas. Toi, je te suis. Non, toi, tu choisis. We were just tapping away in French. I don't know why I think we just started in French and then wanted to continue. So it was really, really fun.
And then you eventually got busted. That was the funny part, was someone saw that you were typing and she was typing. It was like, aha,
Yeah.
they're in an alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listeners, if all of this is intriguing you, two things that may help. I'm gonna post some highlights of our games, and you could take part in a future game. The next one is already sold out, but I'll announce another one pretty soon. It was great fun, and
Hmm.
you can be part of it. So keep tuned to the podcast and social media to find out more about when you can be in the game. I've skipped something incredibly important. David and MaJiKer. David, in case you never know, sometimes there are new listeners who show up for the first time for a random episode to find out what this Traitors podcast is all about. David, who are you and what do you do?
For those who don't know me, I have been covering reality TV for over 25 years, including over 10 years on podcasts, and before that, online in newspaper columns and on my own reality TV websites. Plus, I still post reality TV videos on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram as at David Bloomberg TV.
And MaJiKer, apart from being a Traitors connoisseur, tell us a little bit more about what wonderful things you do.
Well, I've been trying to like get this down to to refine my new identity because I'm having a bit of career transition at the moment and I'm not there yet. So let me workshop it. Hang on. I am I am an expert in listening with a background in music as a songwriter producer. I
It's
recently
Eric.
qualified.
Oh,
I'm Eric with my golden ears, exactly. Let's say an expert in listening rather than necessarily an expert in hearing, because those two are slightly different things.
Mm.
I'm not claiming to be able to hear, the laugh of an otter, as we established that Eric got confused by. Yeah, expert in listening, a lifetime in music as a songwriter producer, recently qualified as a life coach, and all of that I use to help people improve their listening and connect with each other. We're getting
Yes.
somewhere. We're getting somewhere.
mhm.
And brilliant,
And
you are
also,
at it.
and I was going to say, and also your listening came in handy in a
Absolutely.
trader's mission.
It
Yes, very
did.
useful. Now, we have got loads of listener questions and comments. We'll try and get through as many as we can in this episode. I've categorized them to hopefully help guide us through a little easier. I'm going to start with something very important, and that is the issue of breakfast. Breakfast in the castle. And actually, MaJiKer, we have a question that was specifically addressed to you. So Dexter Delvin on YouTube, who's a faithful listener, will be very happy you are actually here to answer. Dexter said, "Oh, I'm having my Morticia Adams lighting again. Really
Yes.
should have
Yes.
tried to. I'll go with it." Dexter said, "This is for MaJiKer if he's available." You are, hooray! He says, "What do they have for breakfast in the non-English speaking seasons? We need to know."
Okay. I'm so tempted to to just make this the hashtag breakfast episode, but let's not. Let's try and keep it relatively brief. First of all, in New Zealand, this is going to blow your mind. It's not called breakfast, it's called breakfast. That's just something you've got to just deal with that. Because in the first episode, I was like, oh no, they're going to come down for breakfast, aren't they? And they did come down for breakfast. Anyway,
Yes.
That's
aside
like
from that,
in New Zealand Survivor, the couple of seasons that there were. It still is in my head that the announcer would say, "They're Nick and Nick in the challenge.
Nick and Nick, that's right.
Nick and Nick in the challenge."
who's Nick?
Yeah, I know, but there were two of them apparently.
So anyway, when they're having their breakfast, so we've had debate, haven't we, around like what is going on with the breakfast situation. So I'm going to say something else, which is sidebar, but it's relevant. Have you all noticed how there's like a floral display? It's not only in the UK and US ones, effectively hiding the breakfast foods.
Yeah, yeah, they've
And
got
I
sort of
think that is
greenery.
for, yeah, I think that is for like two reasons, three reasons. I think, first of all, because it looks nice on screen. Secondly, because for continuity, if they want to cut in anything at any point, that you don't want to see a
Mm,
half-eaten toast and then suddenly it's not eaten,
good
which
point.
they need to do that. So that's why they always have mugs or goblets with that you can't see through so that they
Mm.
can cut things in. Why has the drink gone up and down in a couple of seconds? And thirdly, because I think they don't want us to really know the answer to these questions too much, they just go breakfast, and then it's like get on with it because we you don't apart from the odd bit of salmon and boiled egg, you don't really see. I don't feel I've got
Mm.
a real sense of it. I will just say that it is regionally specific. So in France, you do have. I'm just gonna say the obvious. There are croissants, there are pain au chocolat. It would be wrong if there weren't. There was a debate around because in different parts of France they call it pain au chocolat, other parts they call it chocolatine. So there was that whole debate, regional breakfast chat. And I do think they have salmon in Sweden. I'm not sure. Um, But yeah, I mean, and then obviously, famously, Canada is sponsored by a
Yes.
breakfast chain, pure et
Yes, the
simple,
pure
pure
and
and simple.
simple.
So they're just literally like, okay, let's have every kind of breakfast food we can. But I do think it is regional, and I think there is a conversation about how real that breakfast is. There's been a lot of debate, isn't there, around whether they have other food or whether that's the food. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And we have another couple of questions and comments, David. I know that you were sent a message about this. I have a comment from Desiree on YouTube. I wonder if this is the same Desiree who sent us a really funny voice note a couple of episodes back. I hope it is. Desiree said that Carolyn and Sandra, obviously from different
Let's what I,
seasons, and
let's get at the question first. I think you're about to give the answer.
oh yeah, I mean the question
Is
is that
do
the
they
real
eat
breakfast? Have they had something to
right?
eat at the hotel beforehand? Why are they so desperate to
Right.
get this smoked salmon? Surely they've had something. And we've theorized a bit about it. Like, so I thought last time, well, surely they have something in the breakfast, but I thought maybe it's just a long time until they actually get to the castle.
And the thing
But
is, there's this thing floating around, and that's what I was sent on Blue Sky by. Um, sorry, I've lost the a walk to remember.
oh yes,
Was there's this article that states it kind of offhand, like oh they eat in the hotel, and I think that's become like this almost quote unquote common knowledge. But we discussed it last time. I said, no, I don't think they do,
yeah,
and so now, yes, what we said was we need to hear from some players
yes,
because there's this idea going around, and we know it happened in at least one country. MaJiKer, you have mentioned to us that it has happened in at least one country, but I don't think in the U.S. and UK that it does.
No.
yes. And so, according to Carolyn and Sandra, they talked about breakfast on one of their podcasts. Carolyn said she was warned and brought food with her to eat in her hotel room in the morning, and that some other people Amazon Primed, not sponsored by Amazon Prime, snacks to their hotel room because they were starving. So apparently the breakfast is whack, slash, if you're late or stressed, you don't really have time to eat. So there we go. We got two players saying, yeah, I'm amazed at this. I'm amazed they don't get something in their hotel.
Okay, I have another something that I've noticed. Have you noticed how much snacking there is, particularly in the kitchen? So it may well be, oh shoot, I didn't get much for
Yes.
breakfast. Let's just grab some little biscuits, bananas. They're always eating fruit and a bit, and they've got the fridge
Mm-hmm.
with the yogurt and stuff. So actually, I don't think they're going hungry. There is like a duty of care here.
Yeah, and what you've reminded me of something, Magica. Apparently, the kitchen we see is a bit fake. It's not really a real kitchen. I mean, it has a fridge that they can
Mhm.
just plug in. It doesn't have an oven
Now it
that
has a
works, or
toaster. Yeah.
yeah. So that's why it's this sort of they've got this island in the middle, and what looks like it's a sink is just kind of a compartment full of snacks. It's because they can't make food there. It's
No,
not a
there
real
is a
kitchen.
sink there. There is a sink there because
So
we've
there's
seen
yeah,
people
there's a
use the
sink.
sink
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to
yeah.
rinse like red, for
The
example,
red,
red
of
paint off
course,
of your hand.
yeah.
But um, yeah, I just they come. They even talked about it, the breakfast on the reunion episode, which must have been how we started talking about this because the salmon was brought up. And several of the players then said it's the only protein. And we see them digging in. They're looking for the salmon. They're looking for that eggs. If they had a full breakfast at an actual breakfast at the hotel, they wouldn't need to be digging around for the only protein that's available there.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I don't know how this got into the ether, and it's stated as common knowledge. As a matter of fact, I'm going to message. I know the person who wrote that article, so I'm going to message him. But um, I think it's just a bit of quote unquote common knowledge that is not true. I think they took information from maybe other countries
Mm,
and assumed it was true or misunderstood something. And like maybe someone even said, oh, I ate breakfast back at the hotel. And what they meant was I ordered in,
Mm.
yeah.
something I could eat
Yeah.
instead of, so, so yeah, I think that it's good to hear that the Carolyn and Sandra podcast discussed that very topic, because these are the hard-hitting items that we need to know.
Exactly. That's why
I mean,
I put it first. We had to get it out of the
yeah,
way straight away. That's what
it,
the listeners are here for.
it has sparked a lot of conversation, I will say.
Yes. We've got questions all about, most questions are really about the gameplay, different things that happened throughout the season, things that could have happened, should have happened, some specific questions on the finale, and a couple of other miscellaneous ones at the end. Let's move into our gameplay questions. I'm going to start us with a voice note. This is from Jack. Jack's a loyal listener, and Jack also joined us in our Traitors game online a couple of nights ago. So let's hear Jack's thoughts. But
One
warning,
of my allies, one
one
of
of
my
your
allies,
allies.
one of my closest allies. Yes.
Well, David, I'm going to warn you. Jack has a controversial suggestion here that's going to
Uh-oh.
send you into a frenzy. So just be prepared to contain yourself. Here we go.
Hey, Matthew and David. Matthew wanted to give you a huge shout out for that fun Traders game yesterday. I learned so much as a faithful, and I think I have a much greater appreciation for how Tara and Johnny played this season. I have a whole new perspective, and I want to give them the flowers because it is so hard to walk that fine line between looking faithful enough that you don't get banished, but not looking too faithful that you get murdered. So, Johnny's strategy of getting together a majority alliance right at the beginning of the game, where statistically, probably there is a traitor in your alliance was so smart because it would protect you against banishment, but also perhaps murder. And I will say it's so easy to look clueless as a faithful. Because if you get to the round table and you don't get to actually put your theories out there, when it comes time to vote, you're putting yourself at such risk by putting out a name that you haven't discussed yet. Because it's the perfect opportunity for the traitors later to say, let's murder that person, either to set someone else up or to just get them out because they're on to us. So a lot of the times you just have to come in and you have to go with majority. And then if you can get to the end and you know who the traitors are, like Johnny and Tara did, kudos to you. That threat of recruitment messed with me so much. People I knew from the beginning absolutely were faithful. By the end, I was questioning them because I thought, what if they had been recruited? So, such a tough game. I totally think Rob played a great game. But now I'd like to say my hot take had Tara and Johnny made it to the end and won, I think it would have been well deserved.
Thank you for that, Jack. And Jack,
Oof,
well done on getting.
right, 99% correct for Jack. 99%. I will agree on there. And I will say, yes,
That's why I
Jack and
warned you.
Jack and I had conversations about, do I, Jack was saying, do I look too faithful? Maybe we should create a fake argument to put some sus on each of us. And I said, I don't think so. I'm worried that a traitor will jump on that because, and end up, because at that point we were down to 8 people. So it didn't take many votes to get someone voted out. And then unfortunately Jack was murdered the next day or night.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say, and I do appreciate that, yes, it is hard to get your ideas out there. We definitely had that situation. We were in a more or less 4-hour game. And the guy who was running it was kind of a stickler when it came to the amount of time that we had. So, he was really pushing us to, so we would start a conversation and then poof, the round table would be over.
I was channeling Claudia.
Yeah, well, I do think that, on what we saw, in the US, there were definitely times when people could have said more and they just kind of stared at each other instead. Everybody, of course, can have their own opinion. I do not think it would have been deserved if Johnny and Tara had won. And I just, posted why Tara and Johnny lost. It is, even though it has 2 people, it is one of the shortest mini videos that I did for this entire season. But That's because they just really didn't do a whole heck of a lot. And yes, they did figure out who the traitors were at the end, but as I have seen others post online, their options were themselves, and they knew each other well enough that it wasn't themselves, or the woman who has been entirely clueless the entire game, or those other two guys. So it's not exactly the biggest
Super
Agatha
detective work.
Christie
Yeah, yeah.
mystery. Yeah. And I don't mean to downplay anything Jack was saying. I'm just, I would never do that to an ally. But the I'm causing sus on us now. See, disagreeing. That's my whole plan. Little late, about 48 hours late. But um, I just think that Johnny was the one who did most of the figure. If Johnny had found a way to win, like with Mark, let's say, maybe I would have been more okay with it. But Tara, I really felt was more like a Dolores, and just would have been pulled along to the end by Johnny. And so yeah, that's my thought on that.
MaJiKer, how did you feel about the skating twins? Were they good
Mm,
players? Did they deserve to get to the end?
I mean, I think this is where me and David slightly have different takes on it. So, I mean, nothing you've said is incorrect there, that they were clueless and hopeless and played the game really poorly. But the thing is,
Just stop
no,
there. That's it. That's it.
well,
That's it. Right
exactly.
there. We're done. Move on to the next question.
But I think you're used to the thing when there's a jury who's then deciding on that. Whereas, of course, in the traitors, the only criteria for who
Oh, right.
wins is there a traitor at the end with a faithful. If
Oh,
they'd figured it
yeah.
out, David, if they had, well, which they did, and if they'd managed to convince the other faithful, that would have been an absolutely justified win. So I know they've been clueless all the way through, but it doesn't matter how you are the only way through. In fact, you're better being clueless the whole way through because then you're safe, and then you get through to the end. So I don't have any. I really think that the game is fair. Like it's super, super fair. I understand. I mean, when we've had Clueless Faithful win, it doesn't feel great, but it
Right.
is for me. It is fair. I'm like, cool. Well, that
Oh,
was unexpected. I don't feel
yeah.
particularly satisfied with it, but actually, they figured it out at the end, and that's all that matters. In the end, it's just how you
Mm.
figure it out in those final closing moments.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Is it fair? Yes. Do I like it? No. Do I like that Dolores won and is now out there representing the brand by doing commercials and interviews and stuff as if she had any idea whatsoever what was going on at any point during the entire game? It was a little unfair to Tara to call her Dolores because Tara, I mean, may have had some small clues along the way.
Well,
Um,
I mean, if it's any comfort at all, I have absolutely no idea who Dolores is, and she's made no impression on me
okay,
whatsoever. So
good,
you say the name. I
good.
have a vague image of someone who looks a bit like Vanessa Williams. I don't know if that's right, but I'm just like, gone. She's
Yeah, I
gone.
think yes. Yeah, so it's kind of like there were debates last year about how bad is Ivar because some people were like, "Oh, Ivar is terrible. He's clueless." And I'm like, "Well, he had a couple clues, and at least he was better than Dolores." So, uh, yeah, I like you said, is it fair? Yes, but would I have been disappointed after everything that Rob did? Also, yes. So, luckily there was just, well, not luckily, through a combination of skill and the ultimate cluelessness, there was just no way. As I said in my, don't skip my mini why Tara and Johnny lost because I'm going to say this, but it was too little, too late for them.
Mm.
They needed serious evidence to convince Mora, and they needed it before the final day.
Yeah, yeah.
He had been working her into a cult member for what, a week and a half by that point, so, or more. So you're not going to pull someone out of a cult in with just a couple of conversations.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a very specific question about one thing in the show, followed by a question that's much broader. This is from Eagle Death Season on YouTube. Interesting name. Who is asking about something we mentioned in the reunion episode of the podcast, all about Donna and the way that she made her murder shortlists. So this user says, Regarding what David said about Donna targeting the gamers in her shortlists, I have a question for you. Unlike the UK, brackets spoiler alert, just very vague spoiler alert. If you really don't want to know anything about the UK season, which is now on Peacock, by the way, skip ahead a little. I don't think this is ruining much at all that you don't know after the first episode. So, unlike UK, the secret traitor here did not know who the other traitors were. Is it possible Donna was assuming at least one gamer was a traitor and so was trying to suss them out herself with her shortlists? I don't know the answer to that. I don't. I've got this weird feeling that Donna wasn't thinking at that level.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe she was. I don't know.
Mm. Yeah,
Again,
no,
it feels like such a distant memory to me. Donna's the secret traitor, but
yeah.
is
It's
that what she was
it's
up
I think
to?
it feels so distant as well because there was that massive dump of episodes and then it was one a
Yeah.
week,
Right.
which I really think didn't work at all. Um, but no, I simply don't think I don't want to patronize her, but she just didn't seem to really get the game or give. I don't think she was thinking at those levels.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I don't, I mean, her best episode was the reunion
Yeah.
because she had a couple of nice little jabs and quips in there, and that's all we needed out of her.
Yeah.
That was truly her best episode. And because before then, yeah, I mean, she claimed it was the people who were quiet, but then, like we discussed, there was a lot of emphasis on gamers, and I don't remember the exact shortlists by any means. But yeah, I I agree. I don't think that she was thinking that
Yeah.
deep.
I'm not sure. Next is a question from Serena on YouTube, who says, I understand that Peacock is using the traitors to draw viewership between shows. Um, and we talked about it's no coincidence that Tara and Johnny were there a year of the Winter
Hmm.
Olympics. But I do think it will hurt their viewership over time if they keep having so many people who don't understand the game. There's only so many times we can watch people make the same mistakes. People are so angry at this is for you, David, at Survivor's new era. But one thing that I think Survivor is doing great is continuing to cast people that love the game more and more. They
Hmm.
get the strategy and they elevate gameplay over time. That keeps people like me who love strategic gameplay hooked over 25 years. And obviously, in the States, Survivor is a huge franchise that just continues to keep going. It obviously does have like a viewership who love that. So yeah, will traitors get to that point where actually we don't want to keep seeing people who are not? Is that does that only work for the first few seasons? Then eventually we do want it to become a game where the viewers know what it is, the players know what it is, and it becomes elevated.
I think it's really hard for the three of us in particular to speak to this because there is a good chunk of people who watch it to see the housewives,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see the
true.
entertainment, the drama, the costumes, or outfits, whatever you want to call them. Uh, I- we are not those people, and
Mm.
so when we talk, and then I go online and hear from the other people, they're like, "Oh, you guys are idiots. That's not why we watch." So it's hard to say. I mean, I saw someone post just the other day, and I don't remember where, but they said, the Bravo shows are a big reason that the Traitors is so successful, that those people, they wouldn't be. And I'm like, I wasn't going to get into an argument with them because it was clear there was no point in having that argument because I can't prove it and I guarantee they can't prove it. My only proof would be, except in every other country, they don't
Yeah, look at
have
the other
that. And,
countries, right?
but they could always say, yeah, but this is the US and that's different. What we need to have happen is see how the non
The civilian
celebrity
one.
version goes,
Yeah.
which will be also difficult because I think someone mentioned it's actually going to be on NBC instead of Peacock, or I mean,
Ah,
anything
Yeah.
that's on NBC re-airs on Peacock. But I could be wrong about that. Someone had just been talking about that. I think actually, MaJiKer, you talked about that,
Yeah.
although you couldn't remember if it was NBC or ABC.
Yeah.
But the I so it'll be hard to compare, and also on streaming services, they don't necessarily release the figures for how the ratings went and stuff
Mm.
like that. There are other ways to find out, I'm sure. But so anyway, my point is until we see it with a non-celebrity season, we won't really know. And, with any luck, a non-celebrity season will do better. But of course, Matthew, as you and I talked about, even a non-celebrity season, I suspect they will be putting people like influencers and others who are just there for the TV time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now you've said that, David, I have a concern. It's rising up in me. If it's on NBC, is it going to be an hour slot, which means 42 minutes per episode?
Yeah.
Probably.
That will be a massive mistake. This show does not work in less than like 50 minutes. I've seen it internationally. The longer each episode is, generally speaking, sometimes France got a little bit flabby, I'm just going to say. And Norway, they had a separate episode for the roundtable. Every episode was, I think, an hour, maybe 50 minutes. Then I think they went for the news, and then they came back, and then it was like half
like
an
a
hour
results show of
results show,
Idol
exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah, but really different, so very different rhythm of it. But that deeply concerns me. If it's an hour slot, we're going to have 42-minute episodes. Oh
Like in
dear.
Canada, that's something we talked about, the Canadian episodes. And they have the short regular version and then an extended one that you could watch on their streaming service. But
Yes.
we definitely felt we were missing things, and sometimes roundtables felt short, or conversations felt like they were really clipped and so on.
I just quickly Googled it, and it does say NBC.
There we go. We'll find out.
Okay.
So we'll see. I mean, is it possible they could do like extended versions? Is it possible they could? I mean, Survivor, kind of broke the mold by starting hour-and-a-half episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, that
and
does
it works.
Exist, does it?
Yes, it has for a few. What's it been now? Since I think 45, maybe something like that. So it's been
like 2 or 3 years.
Been a few years, and it really works well. It does not work well for all games. Like Amazing Race is also an hour and a half in order to fill the rest of that slot, that 3-hour primetime block. It's Amazing Race isn't necessarily, I mean, as good in an hour and a half. There's a lot of repetitiveness in Amazing Race. Now they have a new show starting this week with Survivor called America's Culinary Cup or something like that. Is it Padma Lashki?
Oh yeah,
if I'm pronouncing her name right.
She used to do Top Chef, didn't she?
I think so. And then something. I'm not really familiar with her. I'm not usually into cooking shows. I've watched the occasional one where it's like a combination Big Brother / cooking show. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in an hour and a half. If it does make sense for them. But yeah, you're right, because an hour and a half would give us almost an hour of actual TV time.
I didn't know they did that, and I'd heard from someone else that actually, everything has to be an hour-long slot. I think it was a listener who'd said.
I mean, everything except Survivor and the show that airs after it is. I don't know of any other hour and a half long show.
Okay, but they've got a hit show here. They would be absolutely so foolish to say no, let's just do it for an hour and we'll just chop it down and then end up with this thing that just doesn't work. I hope they're looking at, I mean, surely money talks, so hopefully they'll do that.
I mean, you're saying that television network decision makers might do something foolish? Never. That would never ever happen. So yeah. But that is a worry. You're right. Yeah. If it doesn't catch people's eyes the same way,
and
because it's shorter,
and they just and they resort
and they revert back, and then people are all the people who have been saying that, like, see, told you, no one wants to watch gameplay. We just want to see clueless people wandering around, and some people to circle back to the question, which I realize we've spent a lot of time on already, but some do want to just watch the people be clueless. They actually enjoy seeing them stumble around in the dark more than people detecting and finding.
Which I
So
do understand as well. And I talked about that last time. I said,
yeah,
actually, sometimes that's what makes it fun TV is you see people make dumb mistakes
right.
and it's sort of and like it's the traitors and we want to see people be fooled and get it wrong
Hmm.
and but yeah. But maybe there's somewhere in between that doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you'd think they'd run out of housewives, but I don't know. There
They just
seems to
keep
be an
going.
endless
And then they bring them
supply of
back. They
them.
come back. Uh,
Oof.
I've got a couple of questions. I'm sort of going to combine these because they're both kind of a bit Mora, actually. So one is a voice note, one is a comment on YouTube. This is from Kimberly on YouTube, who said, well, there's a few questions in one here, but I'll put them all together. Uh, she says, I've noticed that the internet and media, including your podcast, is a lot more sympathetic too. This is a spoiler for UK Series 2, which was like 2 years ago. If you don't want to know
Mm.
about UK Series 2, skip ahead a little. The people being a lot more sympathetic to Molly, UK Series 2, in the same situation as Mora. So Molly got to the very end with Harry, trusted him, turned out he was a traitor, he'd fooled her all along. Is this because Mora is in a reality TV cast? Is it due to a difference in audiences, US and UK? Is it because it was a newer show when Molly was on it? Or is it because of something else? So uh, let's keep that in our mind. Why are we so sort of down on Mora? Maybe we weren't like that with Molly. And I kind of think Kimberly's maybe answered the question actually, but we've also got a voice note from Ryan. So Ryan's another loyal listener has sent us a voice note before. Ryan's in Canada. Ryan is going to sort of prop up Mora a little here and be positive about her. Let's hear that.
All right, so I'm not a Mora stan. I've never heard of her outside of this show, but I'm going to defend her a little bit here. The role of faithful is really difficult, so I think it's important to only use the information the players knew when determining if they played a good game or not. So let's fast forward to the final five and look at it from Mora's perspective. It would be a mathematical advantage to get to the final two with someone you're pretty confident in, and it would be a staggering risk to get to the final four with a duo that you're not part of. So at this point, Mora is suspicious of Johnny and Eric. With Eric barely contributing to the endgame, those suspicions feel very well founded. Johnny has sketchy associations with Candace, and Johnny's voting record is terrible. So again, these suspicions feel pretty reasonable. So from what she knew in the game, Mora's optimal path here, the final five, should be to get out her main suspects, Eric and Johnny, get them out of the game, prevent the skaters duo from being able to banish her, and keep her trusted ally, Rob, in. So keeping that in mind, when we see Rob offer her a pinky promise to banish Eric at 3, this means that they can use Eric's vote to boot out Johnny and Tara and then use Rob to get rid of Eric. This plan delivers on all of her objectives. So when you take into consideration that she didn't see the same edit that we saw, she was not a dummy. She actually voted correctly, and that's all we can really ask from a faithful. So Mora's biggest and her perhaps only mistake in the game was trusting a fantastic liar whose deception also fooled most of the other players in the game. How many of us viewers believed that Rob would take Eric to the final two despite seeing how he treated the other traitors? I know I did. That guy just oozes trustworthiness beyond all reason. So in the end, yeah, Mora is not some secret genius who knew everything, but at the same time, she doesn't deserve the harsh criticism that she gives herself in the finale and the reunion. She played a good game with a bad deck, and that's all we can really ask for from a faithful player in the Traitors. So, Mora, not a dummy. Good game.
Thanks, Ryan. So all in all, are we being too harsh on Mora for the one mistake of trusting a really great liar? And
Um,
actually,
so
at least she voted out the right
yeah.
people to get to the end.
So I'm going to agree and maybe surprise a lot of people with a lot of what Ryan said, because yes, based on the information she had at Final Five, and also based on human psychology, there was no way she should ever flip at that point.
Yeah.
And there was no way anyone was going to. I said earlier, she was a cult member. You can't pull someone out of a cult in one day. I mean, unless you literally physically kidnap them. But you can't talk someone out of a cult in one day. And especially with all the things that Ryan mentioned. Yes, She made the right decisions, apparently, at that point. I don't know that we can say it was one mistake to trust Rob because it was kind of like a series of mistakes every single day.
Mm.
And yes, lots of people made that mistake. He was a good player. But part of this game is you need to question even your
Yeah,
closest
constantly
allies.
question. Yeah, yeah.
And she kept asking, hold on, let me get the roll the bones hat here. Why am I here? Because you're here. Roll the bones. Why she kept saying that. I literally have an image of her, like she could be the emoji, the shrug emoji there. I literally have a picture of her like that from, clipped from an episode because she kept asking the question and she never thought through the answer.
Sure.
That was her mistake. She did not think things through. Who would be keeping her?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's made a little bit more difficult to answer by the fact that she was a terrible player. I'm sorry. She never figured out. She got one thing right that we saw the entire game. And then she forgot about it later. Like we talked about this on the podcast when it happened. And so, yeah, even maybe other people besides Rob would have wanted to keep her because she never had real, a clue of what was going on the entire time. She criticized herself. She beat up on herself. I think anyone would in that situation. And, she deserves some of it. She doesn't
She did.
deserve.
Yeah. She did also there was a little clip of her on social media just today I think I saw sort of a post, it was like, it
Mhm.
was a peacock thing and she says in it, and I'm not hating on Maura, but she was like, yeah, I hadn't even watched this show. Like she just admit she's
Right.
like, I didn't really know what the show was. And she did the thing that a lot of the players do. I just wanted to show off my outfit. I was just so glad I got
Right.
to like stay another day and show off my outfit, which is like that's fine, but makes
And
makes
that's,
it less difficult to then say,
yeah,
well, no, she didn't really have a strategy or anything.
right. I mean, her strategy was she attached herself to, it wasn't a strategy. She attached herself to the other Love Island person there, which she also admitted in some interviews or maybe at the reunion or some clips. I don't remember. I've seen so much now, it's hard to keep track of what was where. And he happened to be the genius traitor who saw the easy cult member. So does she deserve a lot of the criticism for her gameplay? Yes. Is what Ryan said correct about her moves at the very, very end of the game? Also, yes. But she put herself in that position to begin with by not having any idea what was going on.
And something you said there, David, reminded me of MaJiKer. You sent us a great voice note for our reunion episode, and you said that you didn't you found it so almost anticlimactic. Like you felt like you knew what was going to happen in the end because it was very obvious Maura
Right.
wasn't going to flip on
Yeah.
Rob, so you knew what was coming. Um, any sort of overall thoughts on oh, and I guess the first question on
Oh
YouTube
yeah.
from Kimberly, why were we maybe a bit more understanding to Molly from the
Yeah.
UK? Why are we being harder on Maura?
Okay.
Any thoughts on that?
So I'm going to use an analogy from one of the other shows that I like that sounds nothing to do with it, but I'm always using it as an example, which is the Eurovision Song Contest, where people say, "Oh, but Bulgaria's sending an up-tempo trance song. Belgium entered that and it didn't work." It's like, no, there was a different song. It was a different song. It was a different singer. It was a different moment. Everything about it was different. The only thing that's similar was the genre. So just because you've got an attractive young girl being tricked by a handsome young guy, these are beginning with M, like the girl. These are totally different people, and I
Yeah.
feel very differently about Maura than I do Molly. What someone just shared there, first of all, at the very end, I think one of the reasons we were all so heartbroken about Molly is that she did have a flicker at the end. She was like, "No, you're not lying, are you?
Yeah,
No, but you're," and she rubbed it out on her, but you're not,
yeah,
are you? Are you? Maura was never going to go there because she wasn't in the game. She wasn't properly playing the game. She was there just to show off her outfits. And, so No, I feel totally different about the human being called Maura
Mhm.
and the human being called Molly. So I think it's too simple to make those comparisons. It's a very interesting call by our listener, very interesting call, but they are different people playing different games in different countries as well. And don't forget, Maura
Yeah.
is probably very wealthy and very successful.
Oh, she
You
is. We
know,
know. We checked because we had people
yeah.
yelling that at us.
So it's
And
like,
that's, yeah.
yeah, come on, we've got to get real about what this means. We know
Mhm.
that winning the US traitors is when you pay 50% of it in tax anyway, is a very different thing from in the UK. So the level of heartbreak was different. Having said that, when Maura did realize she'd been betrayed, I think you'd have to have a heart of stone not to just in that moment feel a little bit sad. But
Yeah.
yeah, these are different people, different games.
Yes,
I have a
agreed.
heart of stone. Um, I wasn't sad. Actually, I will probably have a video posted before this podcast gets posted, hearkening back to that moment because I've still been thinking about just the look on her face. First, as she was like,
Oh,
he's going
yeah.
to say a faithful, and then he's going to say he's joking, and then the realization on her face that no, neither of those things are happening.
Yeah.
And when I recorded the video, I actually had a part at the end comparing it to Molly and saying, well, I thought she would run
Ah.
out of the room like a certain person. I ended up deleting that because it was really, it lost focus on, on the point of what I was trying to convey in this video, as you will see. But I it's hard to feel bad for someone who came just to show off their outfits and was paid a large sum of money to appear
Sure. Yeah.
and never really played the game as compared to someone who is your average Brit. I don't remember enough about Molly, but who came to play the game, came to win money, had a very good friendship with this person, and yes, was, not used to these games. Maura has been in a show called Love Island. Now, I
Right.
don't watch Love Island, but I'm pretty sure part of it is you hop from person to person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, there's emotions involved there, but it's she's a little bit more used to this sort of thing. And so I won't say I felt nothing for her, but we saw it coming from so far away. And yeah, I think there are differences, like you said, MaJiKer.
Yes, agreed. There were a couple of comments and questions about something we talk about a lot on the podcast already, about the order of people coming in at breakfast. We've talked a lot about it. So
Hmm.
I've just picked one of those emails, though, that mentioned something quite specific. I think we also did mention this at some point, but I thought it was worth coming back to. So Nick sent me an email saying that's not Nick from New Zealand, that is Nick, said, I
Yeah.
know you discussed it a bit, but it seems to me that the producers always make the traitors come in first as a group after the murder in plain sight. I'm guessing this is to give them a chance to talk since they didn't get to talk in the turret the previous night. I'm pretty sure this season, Rob, Candice, and Lisa came in group one
Hmm.
both after Rob C's murder and Jam Jam's murder. If I were in the group to come in second after a murder in plain sight and I see three people sitting there, I would definitely clock that and watch those people closely the rest of the game. Of course, that is a very good observation. It seems like it is true. Of course, as the seasons go, I feel like as a player, I would keep that in my mind. I would sort of put a pin in it.
Hmm.
You never know what the producers have planned season to season. You don't know how they've switched it up and changed it. So I don't know if it's like foolproof 100% evidence, but
Right.
it's a good observation to make.
And we need to correct something that we said on the last podcast
Yes, that's right.
because we talked about Natalie. Well, what I said was I've seen people saying Natalie came in last by herself. So she clearly should have been cleared for, as an obvious faithful. And then Melissa Best, who was a traitor, spoiler alert, Canada season one, uh, was brought in last by herself to breakfast. And like I said, she was a traitor. So Melissa messaged us
Yeah.
and said, I can't believe you guys forgot me. Basically, I mean, she understands. We've seen a lot, but yes, she said this was, they did that with her, and yes, she was standing up there. Now that she said it, I remembered that was the source of. She was standing up there, and she had to fake in front of everyone. Crying and shaking and pretending to be so upset that this other person hadn't come in and had been murdered, and that she even said in her message to us, I tried to use the meta of me coming in last to convince everyone that I couldn't be a traitor for that reason. Spoiler alert, it didn't work out.
Yeah, it wasn't just Melissa. So one or two other people sent me messages as well, saying, Matthew, you've forgotten about Traitors Canada. So
Yeah.
well done, listeners. You remembered better than I did.
I think this is yet again us as viewers going, why can't you see the thing? It's
right.
like, because you can't see the thing when you're in it. It's just it. I don't agree with the listener who said I would notice that there was no murder and then there were three people just sitting there. But there's always three people just sitting there. And to make the link and say, therefore they must be the traitors. That's easy for us to do as viewers. It's very difficult to do in the game. And it's all hindsight. And like you say, next season, they could just shake it up. They could just shake it up. So there really is no way of knowing. And as soon as you think, again, even if they don't shake it up, how did them in season 4 not know that they weren't shaking it up? You can never know.
Yeah, it goes back to the whole meta of, that the unnameable guy said in the first episode. So there'll be one housewife in the turret, one gamer, and one other, or something like that. And they had to shake it up. It screwed over the gamers massively this season. But by shaking it up, it makes it less likely people will say that. But then, like you said, the meta, we even talked about it at the time. Okay, but does that mean next season someone comes in and says, well, now there must be a gamer? Because certainly they wouldn't do 2 seasons in a row without a gamer. Or, you just don't know. And as the seasons go on, we have to remember, this is only season 4 of the US. Yes, the three of us, especially MaJiKer, have seen many, many more seasons all over the place. But for the US only people, they've seen 4 seasons, if that. I mean, we know a lot of the players, maybe they watch 1 season after they're told they get on the show. Maybe they watch less than 1 season. So they're just not going to pick up on all those things. And it can be moved around. We know in one international season, it was all women in the turret. Mm-hmm. And, people were like, there must be a man. There must be a man. No, there didn't have to be a man. So the producers can switch up the meta. It just takes a while to progress when you get 1 season per year in each country. Yeah. And so we'll have to see how that happens. And, to go back to the game, Matthew, that you ran, we were trying to figure out the meta. Yeah. Because, people were like, oh, well, MaJiKer and David are here, and one other person who's been a guest co-host. So certainly one of them must have been a traitor. And, as the game went on, I was proposing, well, let's see the meta of Matthew. Would he make one of us the traitor, or would he make the other people who, it would be more fun for them to do it rather than the people you already know? Would it be more fun to have them be the traitors and us be the faithful? So
I always think with the meta, the point is you're saying the producers could have done this, or maybe they didn't. So there's nothing. Right. There's nothing. They could have put. Now they must put traitors in there, or maybe they didn't. So you have nothing. Right. So there is no meta really.
I mean, the best use of the meta is to frame someone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good point, because when you say, oh, you come into breakfast, you see 3 people sat there after no murder, they must be the traitors. Fine, you believe that, but then you've got to try and convince everyone else that that's true. And the traitors are going to be trying to convince the opposite. So the game is still on, It doesn't shut down the game, and it doesn't undermine the game.
Could it have been one piece of information? Like, okay, those 3 were in there first after a murder in plain sight. Then Lisa goes out as a traitor. Then Candace goes out as a traitor, and she voted twice for Rob.
Yeah, so you could
Is
combine it.
that
Yeah.
now a piece of evidence? It should have been. At that point, it should have been, because you now have the spider web connects coming together there, but it not
Although
on its own.
it should be as a player. I've got a feeling if a player did pick up on that, they might not include that in the edit. That might sort
Mm-hmm.
of be, oh, they're
Right.
talking a bit too much about the way we've produced it,
Right.
like the way that they didn't seem to show them ever mentioning, hey, there's not been any men traitors so far. So
Right.
sometimes that might be something
Yeah.
the players do mention, but they just don't show us it because it
Yes, we
ruins a
have to
bit of the
remember
illusion.
we are watching an entertainment show after all. There's a game going on, but
Yes.
we're watching an entertainment show.
Yeah. I've got some questions specifically about the finale and what happened at the end and the end game. This is an email from Eric. If it's Eric from the show, Eric is talking about himself in the third person. I would love it if that's true. So Eric says, "Love the pod. Had some thoughts about the Fire of Truth I wanted to share with you." Eric in the show. Eric in the show had already voted to end the game with Rob and Mora. So we're at the final three. So once the others voted to banish again, meaning Mora and Rob, why did he suddenly try to appeal to Mora by suggesting that Rob's a traitor? If Eric were a faithful and had so much suspicion in Rob, he wouldn't have just voted green to end the game with. Maybe he thought he had no other option, that Mora wouldn't put two and two together. Should he have used his final plea towards Rob instead to try to remind or guilt him into keeping their alliance together on this last vote? I don't think it would have worked, but it might not. It might have been a better shot than convincing Mora that Rob's a traitor after just voting to end the game with him. So that's I great point. Hadn't thought of that. My response is similar to other things. I imagine that in the moment it's so intense, Eric just doesn't have that space to think that through. As far as I can tell, the end game particularly is kind of there's not I don't think they'll do lots of cutting. I think they want to keep it as clean as they can, as intense as they can. So I think Eric's on the spot. He's emotional. He's mad that Rob's just you can tell Rob's going to vote for him, and it's kind of just his temper, his frustration gets the better of him, so he lashes back out. He doesn't stop to think, wait a minute, this isn't going to work. Why don't I try and that's what I think. Eric, you're right. That probably was the better thing to do. Try and get Rob to vote more out. But in the moment, emotions just don't help you like that. Um,
I,
any
yeah,
thoughts?
I would say a couple things. One, you're not just trying to convince Rob to vote Mora out. You're trying to convince Rob to give up $100,000.
That's true. Yes.
That's going to take a lot. I'm going to say that's going to take even more than convincing the cult member to turn on the cult leader.
Yeah.
And there were, yeah, he was just, there was literally nothing he could do at that point. He was screwed 8 different ways at that. So I don't think, I do think probably arguing, trying to convince Mora to reevaluate was his best shot. But when I say best shot, I'm saying like
Still a
it
long
was
shot.
1 in a million versus 1 in a billion. It wasn't going to happen, but it was all he had. It was either that or pull an Ari and
Yeah.
just walk out and say, fine, you beat me, and
Yeah.
be pissy about it.
I mean, I guess what Eric could have done is said, "Oh, I didn't think Rob was a traitor, but now that he's just
Right.
done that,
Right.
I'm now questioning everything." And he could say tomorrow, "Me and Rob have had an alliance this whole game.
Yeah.
Like we've been talking in private. I can't believe he's just done this to me." And it might make Maura go. I mean, it probably wouldn't, but she might
No.
go, "Oh, I
Yeah.
thought I was Rob's bestie." Eric could really play
Right.
that up. Like he could say we had a pinky promise. Rob promised me that he would buy me a Birkin bag.
I was just going to say that. Yes.
I think there's sorry to say, I think there's just absolutely nothing he could have done.
Yeah.
Again,
No.
that's why I felt a little bit deflated by the final episode, because I was like, Mora is never going to go against Rob. End of story. And it was
Right.
just how we got there, and we got there in the most predictable way. So,
Right. Yeah.
again, not to take anything away from Rob's victory, he got that from having a whole season of being an excellent traitor.
Right.
But it made
Yeah.
for a very unsurprising final episode.
Yeah, it's like I said, we've seen that on Survivor, where it's like, okay, What's going to happen this episode? Oh, the majority alliance is going to vote out someone from the minority alliance. Okay, yay. And oh, what's going to happen next week? Oh, the same thing. And some people don't like that. So, that's when Survivor started adding in more twists.
Mm. I've got an email from Kathy, this is probably a quick response because I feel like we made our ideas clear in the finale episode, but briefly we'll revisit it. Kathy says, do you think Rob ever intended on sharing with Eric? Or do you think because Maura was so transparent who she'd vote for, he thought it would be so easy to take it all? Kathy also says, Maura wasn't the brightest, but she took it in good humour, as you said. I thought you guys were a little hard on her. At brackets, I'm not a stan, lol. Thank you, Kathy.
But
Maybe we were. What was Rob ever going to share with Eric?
no, I mean, once again, this is why Maura's blind faith undermined the end of the game, and that's what I didn't enjoy. It's like when you've got someone who so believes in you. Like I say, if we're going to go back to that comparison of previous season two, then that person was just there were a couple of elements of doubt, so it was exciting right up to the end. But when Maura just going, oh no, pinky promise. As soon as the pinky promise happened, we're like, well, we're done here. And so in Rob's case, if I were in Rob's place, why would I give, like he said, why would I give away 50% of that prize money? No reason on
Yeah.
earth why I'd do that.
Yeah.
I have a final finale question. This is from Nora. Nora sent me this on Instagram and said, I like you, MaJiKer. Nora says, I personally was not shocked at the end at all. I knew Rob would cut Eric at fire and then and then tell Maura, oopsie, sorry, bae. But it seemed like production and many of the players de-emphasized the money, like they were above it, as likely some of them are. But I didn't put Rob in that category. I don't think he's rich, although he's nicely set up now, I suppose. But he had to be thinking he could win all of the cash once Lisa and Candice were gone. Very good point. I'm sure they are worth a lot more than he is. But people were sure he'd keep Eric. No way. Also, in one of his last confessionals, Rob told us his plan, I'm going to win, not we're going to win. Do you think that production deliberately omitted much talk of money in order to make us forget Rob's strong motivation to cut Eric? This is an aspect of it I hadn't thought of. Now that I think back, I think on the celebrity version, they just sort of like don't really ever talk about how important the cash is to them because it's quite difficult for us to swallow as viewers.
Yeah.
But
To answer your question, I just did a Google search for whatever it's worth on Rob Roush net worth. And one site said, as of 2026, Rob Roush's estimated net worth is approximately $250,000. Now, this was posted 3 days ago. So that means he did not have very much money before he got this $200,000. Obviously, they don't know. He could have $1 million sitting in, investments somewhere that he made from his snake hunting days. I doubt it, but he could. He really seemed like this money was going to be important to him. He wanted to get a ranch somewhere and settle down and all that. So he was one of these people that we have talked about that, yes, the money is important. Tiffany, a lot of the other game players, I mentioned Tiffany in particular because she mentioned it on the show. This is going to help set up for college and stuff like that. And not her, obviously, her kids, grandkids, somebody was going to set up for college. And so it's, like I said, I think it's kids. I think I overaged Tiffany there by quite a bit. Sorry, Tiffany. I think I was thinking of someone else from a previous season who mentioned their grandkids. But the gamers as a whole are not wealthy people. Even the ones who won. Jam Jam won $1 million. Natalie won $1 million. Okay, after taxes, 600 grand. Natalie's was a number of years ago. Jam Jam's was a few years ago. And $600,000 at their age is not going to carry them through the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So
I do wonder though how the whole, if we're just going to get real about this, because you said there's been a lot of commercials like in the gap, in the ad breaks by Traitors players.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to factor that in because, it's not particularly my world, but however much you could win on one of these shows would be dwarfed by the amount that you get by endorsing a company. And then even like I say, commercials, but then there's also like actual brand deals with on your Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
And so in terms of like having a sustainable career, I understand that having, a dose of 200,000, as you say, let's say 100 and a bit thousand dollars after tax, no one is going to say no to that. But and also Rob's a very attractive man. Like he could certainly, do a lot with that if he wanted to, and he'd be a fool not to. So it makes it. I think that's also why there's less sympathy because it's like we're talking about a lot of money, but also not compared to what else. America's funny like that, isn't it? Like the I keep being told by all my people who I train for my coaching with, if you can get work in the States, it's like 3 times, 5 times what you get paid in Europe. There's just so much more money at stake. And I'm not talking about the winnings, I'm talking about the other winnings, the winnings that you get by having even appeared on this show, which makes sense why some of the ladies and the gentlemen wanted to show off their outfits because then they can get more advertising work.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we hear, I especially me when I post a video, but even on, the other things we discuss, I will criticize someone's gameplay. And we heard this a lot about Mora. Oh, well, she's playing the long game. She's making money elsewhere. She's laughing at you. And when Lisa Rinna responded to my video and said, I didn't lose,
honey.
and it's like, but I'm talking about the game. I'm, in those situations, I'm talking about the gameplay.
Of course.
And because not everybody is coming out of this with big extra checks. I haven't seen commercials with Tiffany on it. I mean, I did not expect Dolores to end up with a commercial after,
Excuse
her
me,
season,
guys.
but
we're missing a big one here. And I'm so glad you brought up Tiffany because the whole question was around why don't they have a more healthy breakfast? We're missing a trick. And I said, how about breakfast at Tiffany's?
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
There you go.
He offers them a healthy breakfast and people go, thank God, more smoked salmon. She could do a breakfast at Tiffany's advert for smoked salmon. What are you playing at, guys? Just call me whatever his name, Don Draper. That's me.
Get you in a marketing agency now. Yes. Very, very well done.
Is Tiffany's an actual place?
I think it is, isn't it? Breakfast at Tiffany's, yeah.
But then it's the jewelers, right? And then the films about breakfast at the thing. They should start doing breakfast there too. Forget jewelry, give them do breakfast.
But the number of people who are getting deals off of this. I mean, yes, Phaedra ended up back on, on Dancing with the Stars and ended up back on Housewives after she had been fired from Housewives for some apparently very good reasons. So yes, people like her can rehabilitate their image and end up with a longer career because she stayed for a long time. She was fun. She did interesting things. Someone, and maybe that's why Dorinda was really so pissed off when she got voted out first, or murdered first last season, because she wasn't going to get that chance. But having watched Dorinda now, I wouldn't put her on an ad. Why? She was boring as hell. So, there's not, we've already seen ads with Rob. He's out there doing ads for Kind Granola. I mentioned that. And then, Tara, but that was more an Olympics related ad, I think. So she was already well known enough that. So we'll see who else gets something out of this. Someone claimed to me that Mora had signed a deal with, who is it? Victoria's Secret. So
haven't heard.
Maybe I don't know. It was one of the Mora stands who was arguing that with me. But. I don't even remember the question we're addressing at this point. We have gotten so far. It was just about the prize money in general. I think it means different things to different people, and no one's going to turn down $100,000. But it also, I think, meant more to Rob than it did to Eric, and that's not a reason to play a certain way or not play a certain way. I just think it's a fact. It meant a lot more to Rob. And yes, Rob was always going to get rid of Eric at the end if he could.
Yes. I've got time, I think, for just a couple of miscellaneous questions we could squeeze in. One is from Zach on YouTube. Zach listens and comments a lot. Thank you, Zach. Who has suggested something? Maybe this has occurred to you, David. Zach says, with Rob C's surprisingly large part in the reunion, I do wonder if he will be brought back. It might be my delusion. It may be me being delusional as a fan, but his edit and his episodes and the reunion have been really good. I think production has enjoyed his strategic insights and the way he gets his points across. I've got a feeling someone replied to that saying, yeah, and he'll just get, unless he's a traitor, he'll just get voted out again first next
Yeah.
time. But I sort of could see what Zach was saying. Rob C did seem to have a bit of a feature in
Mhm.
that reunion, even though he was out so early.
I
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to see him come back next season,
Yeah,
get another
obviously,
chance.
obviously I would too. I would love to see it. Do I think it's going to happen, or do I think that's indicative that it's going to happen? Unfortunately, no. I mean, maybe it could, but I think they did it because Rob is used to talking about reality TV shows.
Hmm.
Therefore,
Yeah.
Rob had insightful things to say, probably a lot more than most of the cast. Plus, as we talked about, he he was smart enough to continue his fight with Jam Jam, whether it was real or not. It was, he did that, so he knew how to get that housewife like jab in there. And so, I do think that they needed some insight, and most of the players probably were not giving a whole lot, whereas Rob has that insight and knows how to be funny and, as well as insightful.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why. Would I love to see him back again? Absolutely. Especially if it were like an All Stars where everyone is something of a threat in some way. So it wouldn't be so easy to pick that out.
One
And
over
of
the other.
course,
Yeah.
for there to be a gamer in the turret, so that again you wouldn't have Ian and Rob, and just go down the line there.
Right, right.
I certainly think if they do ever do a gamers season, which I think they
Mhm.
should, then that would be strange if he wasn't included because it's already been
Yeah.
on it, already knows how it
Yeah.
works, and he covers a lot about it. I mean, it's such
Mhm.
a nice story. I think they didn't make enough of that. But it's such a nice story that the podcaster about the show is on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they should too. I also think they never will do a gamers only season for the reasons we discussed. In their minds, this is as much about the housewives as it is about the game.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so unless something happens where they get new information that, oh no, really people are watching it as a game, I just don't
I
see it
mean,
happening.
never say never because we think that these
Right.
shows are tied to a network forever, but we've had big plot twists, when
True.
the Bake Off, the Great British Bake Off went from the
True.
BBC to Channel 4. The amount of pearl clutching, and they lost all but one of their star,
Yeah.
cast and judges and all of that. So, let's wait and see. Nothing is
Mhm.
forever.
Right.
Yes. Uh, this is we could maybe treat this as a kind of a quick fire. This is from Kelsey on Instagram. This has also got a wee bit of a UK spoiler. Again, luckily UK Series 4 is now on Peacock, as I understand. So this references a mechanic that appears in the recent UK series that wasn't in the US one. And Kelsey's asking us about our preference here. Skip ahead if you don't want to know this. In the UK, we got a twist where some players got to interact with the traitors, speech marks, face to face. In the US, I think it was the Black Banquet in that place. Which did you and your co-hosts enjoy more? You might expect me to say UK, but actually, I think the Black Banquet uh, presented more opportunity. I thought the traitors face to face thing seemed really cool and exciting on the surface, but actually there wasn't, it's really difficult to think of a clever way to use it effectively. And we sort of coincidentally got some great TV out of it on the UK version. I think that was just luck because of the two players who won the opportunity to do it. I think most other players wouldn't have known how to do anything clever with it. At least the banquet, I talked about this in the podcast. I liked the fact that there were antidotes, and that created the scenario where people had to argue over who it was, and would the traitors pretend it was them and try and grab one, and so, and then they could theorize about, well, how did we get cursed? Who did what to who? And it created all sorts of scenarios. I'm going to say the banquet and the antidotes and the curse. I thought that was better.
I'm going to circumvent the question because it's just literally not how my brain works. I just can't. It's like saying, okay, great. So I've made you an apple pie and I've also got some gravel. I'm like, well, the gravel will be great on the drive, and the apple pie for those who aren't allergic to apples, because I am. So, but I'm just like, it just they're just totally different things. I'm sorry to question her. I
No,
actually,
no.
to be fair, that was one out of the crazy first half of the season or the first bit of the season, the American one, that it was entertaining. It was so over the top. It was so ridiculous, the outfits and all of that. But that image of Jam Jam being carted off and screaming like that actually made really good TV. It's not the traitors I love to see normally, but actually I was like, this is interesting. I was a fan of the talking to the traitors thing. I thought it was such an interesting twist. It maybe didn't play. It was a little bit like, I don't want to give them a spoiler, but various different mechanics that we've had in different seasons that have been controversial. People can say, "Oh, it didn't work." It's like, well, maybe it didn't work with those players
Mm.
in that game at that particular point. But I think shaking up the mechanics and the rules is really interesting. So I thought both were really added
Yeah.
something to the game.
Yeah, I would also answer why not both, but
Yeah.
I understand why they didn't do it because it is a strategic situation.
Yeah.
And as we know, the Traitors US does not overemphasize the strategy. So, or it does not, I wouldn't even say over, does not properly emphasize the strategy. So, can you, I mean, it wouldn't have had the same impact. Can you imagine Tara being the one who broke the smoking mirror and getting to ask the traitors a question? What was she going to ask? Or Mora? What was
Oh,
Mora going to
great,
ask?
great, David. That's such a foolish thing to ask. I mean, the question would have been very simple. Do you like my outfits? Like that,
Yes.
that's the main question. Which of my outfits have you preferred?
Yes.
The second question, why did you prefer that outfit? And should I
Yes.
wear it again? So, I mean, these
Yes.
would have been
You
great
know,
questions.
your laugh, that could have been quite revealing. Like if the response was like, yes, I love your like Atelier Versace, they'd be like, that's a housewife that knows that.
Homosexual in the turret.
That's not Michael Rappaport. He would never know such a thing.
Yeah.
See? You never know. Uh, there were more questions that I'm really sorry folks didn't get time to get to. I'll try and respond to them individually. Quick shout out to one from Debbie on YouTube who did say, I was wondering why no one used the secret room except Tiffany when she talked to Michael. Yeah, I forgot about that. The secret den behind the
Hmm.
bookcase. Yeah, it just sort of didn't ever come back and no one went in there. I like the little secret room. It's fun. And couple of very finally, well, a penultimate lovely message from Anastasia on YouTube, who said, "Huge Traitors fan here in Pennsylvania, US, and I must share with you this podcast got me through a 4 hour round trip commute." For 2 months that lasted for a new job. I'd save up every episode I could in my Apple library just for the drive. Now that I'm down to twice a month commuting to work, that hasn't changed. Getting on the turnpike when it's still dark, I turn on the pod and the intro music just settles me right in. That's really sweet. Fathoms of thanks. No one does it like you. And to the point in hand, in short, stellar job by Rob, and the reunion's overwhelming housewives focus was beyond annoying.
Did you
Thank you,
say,
Anastasia.
oh, her name's Anastasia? Well, I only have one thing to say that will only apply to Tori Amos fans, of which our dear host is a pretty hardcore one. Do we agree with that? Yes,
Yes,
Anastasia.
Anastasia.
Yes,
Very
Anastasia.
niche reference there. So thank you. I thought that was very sweet. Thanks. And final comment that we don't need to respond to right now. I'm using this as a lead in to something else. This is from, funnily enough, someone called Tara, who says her name is pronounced the same way as Tara in the show. Tara says, I'm a huge Survivor fan and anxiously await David and Jessica's Why Blank Lost podcast each week throughout the season. With that in mind, do you think there was any way for Rob C, Jam Jam, or Natalie to survive in the castle if they'd followed the rules perfectly? Should there be a new set of traitors rules for gamers to deal with a cast full of housewives and the rest of the clueless? I'd love your thoughts. I did not plant this email, but it very nicely leads me onto something that for future episodes of the pod, we're finished with US. There aren't any new English speaking seasons of the Traitors on the horizon anytime soon. But the podcast, I was thinking, it's in its third year. We've had over 250 episodes. We've covered I counted them up today, 18 seasons of The Traitors around the world. I think we've covered enough ground that we could do some broad, overarching episodes looking at various features of the format in general. I think it would be good for us to do a How Do You Win the Traitors episode. And we could, combine all of our knowledge. David and MaJiKer hopefully could join me. I'm planning on having some voice notes from actual Traitors players around the world who've been in that position, can give us their thoughts. So that's just a little tease of what I've got planned next for the podcast. I think that could be good fun. And, listeners, you got any thoughts on that? Send them my way too. For now, just to wrap up, David, again, what other shows are you covering now that Traitors US is leaving it, or we're leaving it behind, I should say? Although, hopefully, here in the UK, it's going to be on the BBC at some point. I hope all the UK viewers can get to see it. But David, what are you covering? Where can we find you?
Well, as good Tara pointed out, yes, I am covering Survivor 50 on the on RHAP with Jessica Lewis, and we had our preview episodes and our first episode of the Why Blank Lost podcast, and of course that will be continuing as the new episodes come out and more people lose, and so that usually drops into the RHAP We Know Survivor feed or general RHAP feed, usually early Saturday mornings. In addition to that, I am, of course, in various places on social media, TikTok, YouTube. I mentioned that earlier. I still have some Traitors videos that I'm posting. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, we've seen that, but no, keep watching them. They're good. I promise. And I still have some mini Why Blank Lost and a Why Rob Won. I don't know if anyone's still interested. There seems to be a quick drop off of interest at certain points. I think a lot of it is because of, as MaJiKer said, yeah, we saw it coming. So, but hopefully, some people will enjoy that. And I will also have videos, obviously, on Survivor. Australian Survivor is on now. House of Villains also is, followed a similar path, dropping 3 episodes in the first night, also on Peacock. So I might have some stuff on that. And so just, you never know what's going to pop up. So follow me at David Bloomberg TV on TikTok and YouTube. And you can find all my other accounts at Linktree/David Bloomberg.
And I believe there's a bit of Traitors crossover with Australian Survivor. A former Traitors player is on the Australian season.
Former
is that
New
right?
Zealand,
A New Zealand
Traitors player. And yes, I will not give any spoilers because we're already 5 episodes into Australian Survivor here. So,
Okay.
but yes, you'll have to watch to find out, I guess. Or you can message me privately if you're not planning on watching and you just want to know. But
you just want to know. MaJiKer, in case people are intrigued about what you were telling us about yourself at the beginning of the pod, anywhere we can find you online, get in touch with you?
Yes, I think the best place nowadays is my Substack, which I still haven't posted on because I'm waiting for a few more people to sign up and then I'll post because posting to 6 people is less enticing than posting to 8. So if I could get 2 more people to sign up, I would be very, no, it's on the way, guys. I'm doing a lot of preparation to change what I do with my professional life at the moment. And so Substack will be the place. It's a great way for us to keep in touch. You can I'll be sharing my music, but also thoughts about coaching and above all, my very exciting listening circles, which are coming up soon. And if you're curious by what that could possibly be, and I did have a lovely message from a listener saying, "Ooh, me and my husband need help with listening." So Substack is the place.
did you say they said me and my husband or my husband?
My husband. Usually when someone gets in touch and says me and my husband need some help with listening, I think we know which part of that couple particularly needs help with the listening, not complying to any gender stereotypes, but it was
stereotype.
it was the lovely wife who got in touch with me and she sent me a lovely message and said how much she enjoys the trailer. So yeah, sign up for Substack and it's very simply MaJiKer.substack.com.
What if it's 2 husbands? Then who needs the help?
I think probably in my experience, everybody needs to listen a little bit more, talk a little bit less.
I don't know what you're talking about. Just because the Traitors use that completely against me in our Traitors game.
That's true. And I will say I have taken part in one of MaJiKer's listening circles, and it was such a great experience. I really, really enjoyed it, as did Lindsay, who's been on the pod several times. Lindsay loved it. So ask more about it. It was really, really enjoyable, really worthwhile. And MaJiKer's music, which I was listening to just this morning, as I proved to you, I was sending Matthew a voice note, and I had his music playing in the background, just because I was genuinely listening to it on YouTube. Like
Yeah,
it's just, I just love to hear it. So you can
I
go
mean,
and
little bit creepy, not gonna lie.
I really enjoy it. And
No,
so
thank
there you
you,
go.
and thank you for your kind words about the listening circle. It's I'm developing it right now, and it's going to be public facing, so you'll be able to sign up and attend these listening circles. It's a space where a few people get to share a piece of music that's been important to them, and everyone else just listens, and we're present. We connect. You can make new friends and have a little retreat from the world for 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's lovely. And as for the podcast, you can follow on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trader Podcast. Might be useful to do that if you want to know more about this game we've been talking about. So I'll post online when I'm planning the next game that you could take part in. Send me any questions, thoughts on those platforms. We're not going to talk about it on the podcast at this point, but I'll reply to you. You can email me at thetradarpodcast@gmail.com. Wherever you're listening or watching, it's really helpful to subscribe and leave a nice review or a star rating, recommend it to other people, whatever platform that may be. And you can support the podcast in a couple of ways. You could visit thetradar.redbubble.com, where you can acquire all sorts of lovely, wonderful, beautiful things like bugs and t-shirts and caps and possibly even socks with Tradar logo on it, and you can show off to people how much you love the show and the pod. If there's anything on there that doesn't look right and you want it changed or altered, send me a message. I'll see what I can do. And if you've been listening and enjoying this whole season and you just want to help the podcast keep going, but you don't necessarily want any merch, you could chip in a small donation at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley. I've got some thank yous since the most recent episode before this. Got some really kind donations from Steve, Angus, and Kenlin. Steve said, "Thanks for the pod." And also for sending me the psychology presentation that I mentioned on the podcast. If anyone wants to know more about that, send me a message. Suzanne Zedike, she's been on the pod before. She's put this really cool report together all about Traitors UK, particularly, about the most recent season and all of the fascinating things she observed in
Oh yeah, the
there.
psychology of the US people that's a whole
It's
different ball
different,
game
very
right
different,
there.
yes. Kenlin said, "I know this must take a huge amount of your time. I'm so grateful that you do it. Thanks, Kenlin." And Angus contributes every month. You can sign up to put in like a donation that just happens monthly. So that's very, very kind of you, Angus. I really appreciate it when that comes through. Thank you, everybody who sent a question, a comment. It's given us loads to talk about. Thanks for everybody watching on YouTube. You've joined us this whole season. It's been great reading all the DMs and emails and comments. Really appreciate the support. Thank you, David and MaJiKer. David, in particular, you have joined me this whole episode. In fact, this whole season, I wasn't even on the pod for some episodes, and you were here to take it forward. So thank you for that. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
And like I mentioned, the pod will be back with some hopefully really cool episodes soon, and we'll be revealing a new show we're planning on covering beyond the Traitors universe. Keep your eyes on social media
Hold on,
for
hold on. Let
that.
me think. Let me read your mind and see if I can
Oh,
figure out what the show is.
little bit of a clue there. Subliminal messaging from David. Until then, laters, traitors.
Dig them potatoes.
And stay traitorous.
Bye.